Welcome to Fantasy Fanline.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanline, the fantasy football call-in show connecting you with industry experts every week. I'm your host, Greg Scalera, here as always, well, almost always, with my co-host, Sanchi Value. I say almost always because, Sanchi, you held it down last time, man. You had your own debut show on your own. How'd it go? How'd you feel?
Felt great, man. I'm happy I had Smitty on the squad because he had a lot to say, and he made my life way easier, but overall, it went really well. We had a good mock. If you didn't catch that episode, you could always go back and look it up. ADPs have changed a little bit since then, but overall, it was a really good show. But it's great to have you back, Greg.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed listening to it from afar. As always, you can go back and find that episode in full on our YouTube channel on video. You could also find it on all major podcast platforms because we do them both. We stream live on video like this every Saturday for the rest of the season. Sanchi, dude, we are here, man. Weekly episodes.
Oh, man. I'm so excited. All my friends think I'm a nut. I kind of am a nut. Fantasy football, it's my passion, and I'm ready to talk all day. Let's go.
We're all nuts here, brother. This is a safe space. So we are live with you guys every Saturday through the entire regular season, right up until NFL playoffs, and maybe even beyond that. We might go to the Super Bowl if there's enough interest this year. We'll see what happens. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome to Fantasy Fanline. If you don't know what we do here, we feature different expert guests from the fantasy football industry every week on our show to take your live phone calls and answer your questions live on the air. Yes, phone calls with your actual phone that you could pick up and dial us at 618-FANLINE anytime during the show to chat with us and our lovely guests who we're bringing on in a minute. Or you can leave a comment wherever you're streaming this right now, whether you're on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook. You can leave a comment there. We will see it here. If you have a question for us, submit it that way. If you're a little too shy to pick up a phone and call us, I get it. We don't bite, but sometimes you just, you want to do your own thing. So drop a comment. We will pick it up here and answer it as best we can. So like I said, our live video show is every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on pretty much every social platform. You could find us, follow us at Fantasy Fanline. You could find Sanchi and I individually on Twitter. I am at the Greg Scalera. He is at Sanchi Value. I tried to get at Greg Scalera. It was taken by somebody who never posted anything, hadn't touched his page in like 15 years. And I tried to write to Twitter. I was like, is there anything? Can I repo this? Like, can I repossess this? And they were like, no, there's nothing we can do for you.
Money talks, man. Money talks.
Money talks. So I am at the Greg Scalera, just to clear up any confusion. You could also visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, to find a full schedule of our upcoming guests and to submit a question to our mailbag if you can't join us live to chat with us on the show. Albert writing in, speaking of YouTube, good afternoon, fellas. Albert, good afternoon, man. Thank you for joining us today. It is a pleasure to have you attending our little show here. So without further ado, speaking of expert guests, we're going to bring on our expert guest for the day, Markeith and AD from Fantasy Culture Podcast. Gentlemen, what is happening?
What's going on, Greg? What's going on, Sanchi? How's it going, man?
Doing great, man. Glad to see you guys on here. I actually met AD in Texas. We both collect these vintage shirts, and we were at an event, chopped it up. It was a great time. And then later on, I found he's into the fantasy football as much as I am, and I figured what a great opportunity to get him on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. The vintage community has brought a lot of people together in other spaces. So to even, like you said, come across and find out that you're into fantasy football and have this opportunity, super appreciative of it, man. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you, man. Speaking of other spaces, you guys have been in the fantasy space about a year now, I think, right? You got one full season under your belt with the Fantasy Culture Podcast.
Yeah.
Listeners of our show can find them on Twitter at FFBallCulture if you want to check out their show. We'll mention it again at the end. But why don't you guys tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing over there on that show and what listeners can expect when they look you up?
Yeah, man. So really, we've had it for the last 2 seasons. I think last year was kind of like, we took a little jump in what we were doing. So we just, try and bring our attitude and charisma to the mic. I do hip hop, and I'm a producer as well, so I'm in the music space. So I just wanted to kind of branch out and do some other things, add some other stuff to my portfolio. So I figured, why not? Let's do a pod with my man here, Markeith, and it was something that I enjoyed, and I wanted to kind of share my knowledge of the space with other people. So if you listen to the show, like I said, we go in depth. We have fun arguments back and forth because a lot of the time our opinions tend to differ on certain subjects. So it's super engaging. We're kind of enemies, but we're best friends when it comes to that. And yeah,
that
man,
that makes for good radio.
It does. I try and incorporate the music side into the podcast as well. So we'll do like a little music intermission halfway through, where like local artists and such. We're in Tampa, so Tampa local artists can send, or artists from all over the nation, all over the world. If you want to send us music to be played during that portion, we always try and give a nice shout out and include that music element to our podcast. So and we love it. We love the engagement that we get from our followers, and opportunities like this that come up. So I'm super appreciative, man, and I'm just happy to chop it up and talk about the upcoming season.
Yeah, that's a really cool differentiator. I don't really hear anybody else doing the music integration thing.
I love it. I think that's awesome.
How you doing back there, Markeith? You good?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good. Same thing for me. I just enjoy doing the show with AD. I'm big into football. I played football pretty much my whole life up until end of high school. And then just for me, that's been it. I've been doing fantasy football since I was like 13. Just doing drafts. I just remember old school styles. You meet up somewhere, and there's no online. Everyone just has to write in on the board and write your picks in. And you may be there for hours doing it, but it's the experience is fun.
That's the best.
I'm going back to like magazine days where you pull in the magazine and it's giving you the rankings there.
Yes, sir.
Years doing that. So just doing that. I'm into like tech and data. So a lot of the stuff I try to do is more like the data analytics when it comes to our show, and just try to find the numbers and just try to find the best use of information we can to provide to the viewers and the listeners.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You always got to have a data guy. We don't have a data guy. That's why we bring on people smarter than us onto our show.
That's my guy, man.
To talk numbers, right on.
We're gut feelings. We're gut feeling guys.
Oh,
it's
for
a
sure.
good mix. It's a good mix then, because
that's me too.
Guts and eyeballs. That's my game.
That's me.
How did you guys find the first year in the fantasy space? What was it like for you, kind of breaking in, trying to get some listeners, interacting with other people in the community?
Man, I loved it, man. It was challenging because it's definitely different from music. I think music-wise, if you're good at it, people are a bit more receptive, and I think there's people who are way more tenured and way more knowledgeable than us in this space. So, I learned that don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid to take the knowledge that you're seeing from these guys who have been in it for quite some time and engage with them. Also give props where it's due and thank them a lot of the time, because this space can take a lot of time from you. Especially if you're, truly dedicated to it, or some guys do it full time around the clock. So, just to let them know that they're seen and they're appreciated. But coming into this space, the people that we interacted with were super receptive. We had some engaging conversations. Some of our predictions we completely missed on, and good. It's good when the followers come back around and they're like, you guys missed on this. We're like, yeah, well, we did, but we appreciate that you even recognize it a year later or months later to come back around and say, hey, you know what I mean? So
look, that's how they're paying attention.
Exactly. So we take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time we enjoy having that engagement and that interaction. So I love it, man. I love it here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome to the community. On that note, we're going to jump into the mailbag, make some more predictions, and we'll see if anybody calls us on them in a year from now.
Yeah, for sure.
Before I do that, I want to remind everybody that our fan line is now open, 618 fan line. You can call us anytime during the show to jump on the air and chat some fantasy football with us, ask some questions, leave some feedback. But in the meantime, we're going to take some questions from people who submitted them in advance through our website. Speaking of predictions, is Julio toast from Luke in Pennsylvania? I mean, he's not literally toast. Does that answer the question? Can we move on? Like he's a dude, he's a guy.
Yeah.
Sanchi, what do you think, man? What can we expect out of Julio getting picked up by the Buccaneers of all places?
This is how I see it. I don't think the talent's toast. It's still Julio Jones. However, the body and his bones might be, unfortunately, as he's getting up in age. And, you know, most people who had him last year got burnt by him. No pun intended with the toast. They're not even going to look his way this year. But this is the best quarterback he's ever had. You know, let's keep it real. It's Tom Brady. He's not going to get the top coverage or even the second best coverage with all the weapons they have there. So if his body holds up, I'm not going to be shocked with 1,000 yards and 6 to 8 scores with Brady throwing him the rock. You know, he's a pick at your own risk kind of guy. But right now he's pretty much free. I expect him to shoot up a couple rounds. But if the price is right, I think it's worth the risk late, in my opinion. I don't know about you guys.
First of all, if you make one more toast joke, I am going to turn this podcast right back around and drive us home.
Get rid of the toast joke, Markeith. He had one ready.
You guys can keep it because you're guests. Sanchi, not allowed. AD, what do you think, man? Is Julio toast?
I don't think so, man. I think I think there's a little bit of recency bias just because these last 2 seasons he has struggled with the hammies. We know the hammy injuries tend to linger a bit. But prior to that, he did have 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons. So there's still some juice in the tank. Being with probably, I would say the best quarterback ever, in my opinion, my humble opinion.
That's a hot take, bro.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, hey, we can talk about that another time. But I think being with, at least the greatest of Julio's career, to have Tom Brady slinging him the rock, I think there's an added incentive there. We know that Tom Brady retired but came back. So at this point, you kind of thinking he's at the end of his season. Julio's probably somewhere in the same boat. He's in the end of his career. This might be his last season. So I think there's some sort of added incentive there. You have 2 veterans who are like, hey, man, we have possibly one more shot at this. Let's see what we can do. And, like Sanchi was saying, he's not going to be the first option. Maybe not the second, maybe not even the third. So that does take a little bit of pressure off of him where he kind of fills into that AB role with a bit more structure and discipline. But Julio Jones, as we know him, he's a legend. He's been a legend receiver for a while. So I think there's still some more juice in the tank. I don't think he's toast. I'll leave Markeith with the joke on that one.
Yeah, no, it was for me. I don't think Julio's toast. I'll go more probably like the end of the bread where you're not like it's still like you can still use it, but it may have like a fold or a bend in it that you're not too sure, if it's good or not. But I don't feel like he's toast either. Just like AD was saying, he has 6 straight seasons with 1,000 yards. He had 2 seasons where he was injured. Within his time, I can say someone like him is probably going to put in the time and effort into just kind of building his body, just trying to get it back healthy again. As we know, Brady is going to look for him. Brady is one player who's very, very player friendly, which is great. He's going to look to try to get him involved and make him feel welcome to the team. So I feel like someone his caliber, he's still going to do good. He's still going to kill you across the middle of the field if you allow him to cross you up there. He's still going to be a good red zone target for Brady. He still has a high ball feature. He can still jump up and catch it. Last year, I'm a Tennessee Titan fan, so I feel the burn when it comes to Julio Jones. So I can understand having him there. But he still almost had 500 yards receiving off a bad year. Still averaged 14 yards per catch. So it's still the numbers can still be there for him to be a viable option. And then again, you're with Tom Brady. Most successes happen with any top receiver that has joined with him, even when everyone else is kind of iffy around the environment.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
I mean, Brady's still leading the league last year in passing attempts, completions, yards, and touchdowns.
Or something last year.
Yeah, let's be real, man. Julio wants that ring. He wants that ring, and he deserves one too. Hell of a career.
The KD effect.
We have some precedent here to follow, right? Because this is what we're seeing now in recent years is everybody's trying to build super teams, and it worked the last couple of years, right? It worked with the Rams last year. We saw Odell Beckham come in, join a stacked receiving corps. He wasn't, double covered as the top option for the first time in his career. Saw AB go to the Bucks a couple of years ago, same deal. Join, Evans, Godwin. So this is what players are doing now. They're going where they think they have the best chance of, and these teams are starting to look like Pro Bowl teams. Which is cool. I mean, this will be the first time in Julio's career not getting double coverage, not seeing top corners. It'd be interesting to see what he can do with it. I mean, I want to blame last year on the injuries. I feel like Julio, since the day he was drafted, has been questionable with a hamstring. every year and has
Yes.
Yeah.
still managed to succeed until last year. And like, you know, again, if we look at that recent precedent, we saw Odell Beckham go to LA and look like a beast. And that was after a few years in Cleveland looking like how Julio looked last year.
Yeah.
And we all thought maybe Odell Beckham was done. Big difference there being obviously that Baker Mayfield has never supported elite wide receiver play. And Ryan Tannehill, I mean, Julio last year was out there catching the same passes as A.J. Brown, who was averaging, you know, twice as many points as Julio was. So I think that there's evidence both ways. We were talking a little bit before the show that ADP hasn't really caught up yet. He's free right now if you want to go get him in best ball drafts. But by the time you draft for your home league, I think he's going to jump up quite a bit. We'll see how far he goes. I mean, Sanchi, what names are you taking him ahead of as far as wide receivers go? Where are you looking to get Julio?
I mean, I know everyone likes their rookie dart throws. They're like in Tolbert and Dotson this year. That's around the range I'm comfortable snagging Julio when all those late round dart throws are being thrown. I feel like he's one of the better
Markeith,
dart throws.
Is that where you guys are looking for him?
Yeah, for the most part, the rookie dart throw range. You know, prior to the acquisition, I think Russell Gage had come into play. He was kind of up there in ADP. So I would see him to kind of. I think Russell Gage might take a back seat a little bit here now that they have Julio,
For sure.
where he can kind of like slip into that range. So I think that was like around like Olave and like a couple like your rookie dart throws right around that space. Yep.
I think as training camp goes on, and I'm sure if you get more video clips, you know, the hype will kind of go into it as well to kind of raise it as well.
Oh, I mean, we already saw the first couple of videos of Tom Brady throwing to Julio, and you look at it, and it feels like you're watching like a Madden clip. But yeah, I think that's about the right range for him. He's probably going to jump higher than I'm comfortable taking him because I don't think that I'm as in on him this year as you guys are. But we'll see what happens. I think that it says a lot for Russell Gage, who you just mentioned. I'm out on Russell Gage at this point.
Yeah.
My interest in him was purely opportunity based. Because just like I feel like a week ago, all of a sudden it was looking like Evans was going to be, you know, the guy in Tampa Bay. Godwin was hurt. You know, Gronk retired. AB has blasted off to another dimension. And it was like, okay, Evans could get, you know, 150 targets this year with wide receiver 1 overall upside. And I was loving Leonard Fournette. I was like, who else is going to catch passes, you know, besides like Rashad White? But all of a sudden, you know, Godwin's trending healthy. They bring in Julio. So that cools me a little bit on Evans and Fournette. Still like Evans a lot as kind of a late wide receiver 1 if you get him back at the second. I've seen him slip into early third. So yeah, interesting ramifications all around. Love it for Tom Brady, though. We were saying before the show that guy just can't seem to catch a break. Nice to see something finally go right for old Tom Brady. Maybe he can see some success this season.
For sure.
Speaking of draft strategy, we have a question coming in from the YouTubes. Albert wants to know, what is y'all's favorite position to draft from this season? If you have the choice, and Sanchi, I know you and I play in a league where we kind of have a choice. So if you got the first pick, or the first pick of draft selection spots, what are you taking, Sanch? Where are you enjoying mocking from this season?
I like the back half this year, man. I'm not gonna lie. You can snag if you want a running back. You can get like a DeAndre Swift, Mixon. I've even seen Dalvin Cook fall to 9. So if you can snag him, and you could have your pick at like guys like, you know, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, if you want to take a receiver, or go even a double running back strategy with Barkley or Aaron Jones and like lock up 2 good backs like off the jump. I feel like I really love 9 through 12 this year.
Yeah, and I'm going to tie this question before I kick it over to AD and Markeith, because there was a mailbag question that came in from Derek in New Jersey, who was wondering if we had a draft strategy that is tailored to this year's ADP trends. And I think what he's asking is, what are we noticing in our mock drafts, and how are we adjusting our strategy to kind of take advantage of these trends? AD, what do you think, man? Where do you like to pick from, and how are you adjusting your strategy?
Man, I'm right there with Sanchi. Like I like the back end of the picks. You know, one of my home leagues, we just did a you know, we went for our positions this past week, Thursday, and I got 12. You know, I'm the last one, and I love that. I love that turn because I can lock in a DeAndre Swift, the Chubb. If I believe in Barkley this year to turn it around, I can grab a prime running back and then come back and maybe get like a Tyreek Hill Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Diggs drop to like, just that second round, that series of wide receivers that are taken at that point. So I like it. Mainly, I don't really I do pay attention to ADP, but I use it more of like a guide to know, am I within my senses to grab this player at this moment? Or is this considered a bit of a reach? So I usually use it for more like that. But I love that, like that 10 to 12, right around there, 9 to 12. That's kind of like, I think, is the hot pocket for like a good solid team, in my opinion.
I agree, man. To add on to that, like, I don't think you should go in with a strategy because every draft is different. And ADP, as you said, is a great guy, but you don't want to be a sucker for it.
Yeah.
The way I draft, tiered rankings and best player available. That's the way to go. ADP is a good guy, but it's not something you build a strategy around. The only really the times I look at it are like pre-draft just to get a feel, and if I'm considering like reaching on a player. And the way I see it as, you can reach, but if that player is not going to make it back to you, it's not a reach. And I don't care what anyone says. You take your guy. You just use the ADP as a guy. But for me, it's tiered rankings and BPA all day.
Wise words. Markeith, where are you at?
Yeah, definitely. Just like AD was saying, we got our picks. I'm in the same league. I ended up getting the 7th pick. I've been iffy on that one. Some of the mocks I've done, I've been usually drafting between like 3 and 5, and been able to build some pretty good stacks there with running backs. I do like the back end draft as well. Just kind of seeing how some mocks been going on teams with that. So for me, it's been more the middle of the pack. I've been honestly for my sake. I don't really go off ADP as well. Much as I like numbers, I'm also a played, so I really go with gut and it's kind of knowing the players, understanding how teams work. I may go more off teams' tendencies and kind of more so how's the team structured? Are they going to even utilize the player that you're looking to get? But also just go in, like just knowing what team you want to build. Like how are you looking to build your team? Like strategy for me this year, I may try to go a 3 running back team. I saw it last year where one of people we went against, they were able to I don't know how they were able to get like 3 solid running backs, and they just kind of like they really kind of clean up the league with just having that team there. But that's typically like my range there is more so just going off of like notice the eye test tier the player, just going off that there, just using the ADP more so as a guide of like what position I may want to draft. Am I grabbing a player too early? But at the same time, if I know that's who I'm looking for, I'm going to grab that player too.
Yeah, that's good stuff. It depends on your format as far as stacking running backs go, but I do find that in most kind of standard to half PPR formats with more traditional roster constructions, the RB-heavy teams do tend to place higher than the ones who try to piece that together. That being said, I am noticing that this year I'm seeing a lot of good results, and I'm not usually a fan of this approach, but this year it's working for me. The hero RB approach, as opposed to zero RB. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, hero RB is kind of starting off with a stud running back that you're really confident in, and this is a guy that you're going to grab in probably the first round, maybe second if you can steal like an Aaron Jones or something in a full PPR format. And then kind of just riding 2 through 6 wide receivers, pass catchers, tight ends, and coming back later and taking more of a shotgun approach to fill that RB2 spot. Because I do feel like in full PPR formats, especially like a 3 wide receiver construction or like a 2 flex, that running back 2 slot is a little less important, and you can kind of throw darts at a few different later guys who might catch enough passes to float you at that position each week. I'm looking at like, let me bring up some names here. Pass catchers that you can get later after round 6: Kareem Hunt, Chase Edmonds, maybe Cordell Patterson if you're feeling lucky. Potential bell cows going around there: Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary on a good offense. I'm seeing Miles Sanders sometimes slip to the 7th. So like, if you start with like a Dalvin Cook in the first round, come back around rounds 2 through 6, CD Lamb, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, and then you backfill your RB2 spot with some of those, those iffier guys, I think you're in good shape. That is not usually my strategy, but this year that's what I'm seeing kind of in the ADP. As far as where do I like to draft from, Albert, what I really like to do is I like to sit down going into each draft season and write out a list of all of the guys that I would really be excited about starting with, whether that's 20 guys, 30 guys, 36 guys. And I try to kind of plan my draft spot to get as many out of that pool as I can. So the bigger that pool is, typically, the closer to the turn you want to be. I'm in a league with Sanchi this year, and I picked the 3rd spot, not necessarily because I really am in love with any of those top 3 guys, but because I'm in love with the players that I can grab at the back end of the 2nd, going into the top of the 3rd at that turn spot. I'm like, there's just so many good guys there, and I feel like if I picked any later, I would miss out on 1 or 2 of them if things didn't go perfectly. So that's how I usually like to plan that out. This year for me,
I'm gonna take Eckler off my board already. On that
He's out of there.
That is a 3 wide receiver league. So take from my diatribe just now about the hero RB strategy what you will. I might do it, might not, depending on how those first couple picks go. But yeah, that's where my head's at this year in terms of strategy. Good questions. Let's keep it rolling. We got a Instagram question that came in just before the show from Sniper1341. He wants to know, who are y'all's favorite late round sleepers? I feel like this is the obligatory question that we have to answer in the preseason. It's a good one. Everybody has a different approach to it. Sanchi, where are you looking for late round guys?
Like 8th round or so. That's what we're gonna do here. 8th round on.
8th and later. I'm probably gonna look at like last picks after defense maybe.
I'll give you a few. Love Adam Lazard this year. He has the potential to be a wide receiver 1, in my opinion. He has Rodgers' trust. I see him fall into the 8th round. I think he's worth the gamble there. No Tay Adams anymore. He's got to throw to someone. They don't think this Watson kid. I mean, they believe in the Watson kid, but he's raw. He's going to take some time. They're saying.
I think Adam Lazard up in training camp.
Adam Lazard is a great pick. I'm going to do a little homer pick here with Kadarius Toney. You can't deny the talent. That offense there's nowhere to go but up for that Giants offense with Dable and the new coach. Jason Garrett's gone. I think Toney
feels
is definitely
weird for me to agree with this, but I'm kind of in on the Giants offense this year, man. Makes me feel funny in my stomach to say that, but I think they're going to surprise a lot of people.
Have a great OC.
Shout out JJ Zacharyson because he's all in on them too. And once I heard him say it, I'm like, all right, he's my new favorite. He's my new favorite.
He gave you permission to feel okay about your offense this year?
Yeah. So I'm in on Toney. I love the talent. I think he's a home run hitter. He's a guy that could win you weeks. I'm not saying he's going to be a wide receiver 1, but he's definitely a guy I would love to stash on my bench. I feel like he could win, and he's going to win multiple weeks for you with his home run ability. Like, he didn't get the touchdown last year, but they're coming this year. That offense is going to be completely different with Dable. And another guy I'm liking is Christian Kirk. He followed the money. They paid him a ridiculous amount of money.
Christian Kirk, for those of you who have not been keeping track, is in Jacksonville now and is probably their wide receiver 1.
Definitely their 1.
The contract, yeah.
And they're going to be down a lot, and the volume is going to be there. And, they're going to force feed that contract, man. They're going to force feed that contract. But that's 3 receivers. I'm going to give you a running
I like
back.
that one. I just want to shout out the Christian Kirk pick. I'll take a late round bet on Trevor Lawrence to take a step forward as a passer this year with hopefully a more stable coaching regime. I mean, it's easy to kind of disregard Lawrence now as a passer and somebody who can support a wide receiver with upside. But, think back just a year to the way that he was being talked about coming out of college and into the NFL draft as one of the perennial generational talents at the quarterback position. I mean, that doesn't just disappear because of a rocky start. So
Urban Meyer, enough said. They have Peterson there now. There's nowhere to go but up for Lawrence. I'm with you. I think he's going to make that lead. Let me give you one more.
We said that coach's name once on our show. We can't say it another 2 times. I hear he comes out of the computer screen.
With
Bloody Mary. So.
Yeah, Candyman. But anyway, I'll give you a running back. I'm in on Ramondre Stevenson late.
Yeah, that was
mine. That was mine too.
That dude is a tank. I see the hype. He's running with the ones. I'm not sold on Damian Harris. I know he had a good year and he fell into the end zone a bunch of times, but towards the end, Stevenson was heating up. You know how Belichick uses running back, so it's obviously risky. But for that late and a guy you know is going to get burned, and a guy who knows is a great runner, give me Ramondre. I think his ADP is 99.6 on Underdog right now. So
that's ridiculous.
I'm taking that chance.
Every time he got an opportunity last year, he showed that he deserved it. AD Markeith, you guys want to give us a couple names?
Yeah, I'll throw a couple out there. I think people, and maybe he's not a sleeper, but I think people kind of are writing him off a bit because of his late season injury. But I like James Robinson. I think that backfield between him and Travis Etienne, they have it's kind of going to be a toss-up. They both came off serious injuries, but there's going to have to be someone that can control that backfield. Whether or not you go with Etienne, whether or not you go with James Robinson, I think right now he's a steal at his value. 2020, he was RB7 PPR overall, and he was just outside the top 20 last year, and he missed, I think, 2 games at the end of the season. So I think there's still some value to be had there. I think the hype of Etienne and, you know, what people are expecting of him coming into this season, I think it's a little bit too high to write off, you know, James Robinson in that offense, even with a new coaching staff. I don't think Urban Meyer knew what he was doing. I think a lot of people would agree with that. So
that's 2 times. We can't
I made sure we have one more to go. But yeah, I think it's just, I think he has some value there, and I wouldn't be so quick to you know, write him off. I think another in that space that I like, I think Michael Gallup. I think Michael Gallup, you know, another one coming off an injury as well, but I had CeeDee Lamb on my team last year. I liked him. I like what he can do, but they're going to need some sort of an additional supporting cast. You know, there's talks coming out that this may be Zeke's last run as a Cowboy. So, you know, there's opportunity for other players to really step up and jump into a role where they can be next year and the year after and the year after to really solidify themselves as a presence. So I like Michael Gallup there. We kind of saw what he was able to do when he is healthy. And I think CeeDee's going to, you know, need some help. He's going to need some help in that receiving core. And then I think lastly, just one more person, I'm kind of going to stick with the Cowboys here. I like Dalton Schultz. I think where he's at, in that tight end position there, I think he has an ability to finish top 3. I see him jumping like maybe the likes of, you know, Darren Waller. I like him this season. He was a good instrumental piece of that offense. And I think the opportunity is there where they're going to need players to catch the ball. I don't know if I'm sold on Zeke being completely over his injury. I think you said he, you know, played through an MCL injury last year. He feels better, but I don't know if I'm sold on that. So I think there's some opportunity for him, for Schultz, Tony Pollard, but I like Schultz in that offense. So I think he'd probably be a sleeper of mine too.
Cool. Markeith, anyone you want to add to that?
Yeah, another one I like is Devontae Parker. I know he's with the Patriots now. It was good with Miami, and I feel like he can easily solidify himself as a number 1 for New England. On top of that, yeah, easily, because Jacoby Myers is, you know, he gets good targets, but he's not scoring. And I feel like Devontae Parker definitely is a receiver you can throw in the red zone. He can be a
man,
threat.
He scored once.
Yeah,
I had him some slack, please.
Another one too, probably KC. I probably go MVS. And even Rojo. I think those are 2 people who can join that team and make an impact. You know, Rojo with Tampa Bay, he battled with Fournette. His only issue probably was fumbling during the time that kind of limit him. You know, they'll take him off when that would happen. But for the most part, he'd always come in with a good charge, with good energy. Definitely a hard runner there compared to what they've had previously, a much bigger back. And then MVS, as we know, he can spread the field. You know, you're going to have Coleman there. You're going to have Juju Smith-Schuster as well. You're obviously going to have Kelsey. And MVS was a nice threat with Rodgers for the most part when he was able to be involved. And I just feel like those are another late-round receiver who's kind of falling down low.
Good targets. For sure. Can
Yeah,
I
look at it. Oh, yeah, go
Can I
ahead.
add to that, Greg? I feel like going to the Chiefs, I feel like there's a league winner to be found between Juju, MVS, and Sky Moore. But who is it?
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
I don't
Who's
think
it going to be?
I don't think it's Juju. I like the MVS dart throw. I like those who are planting their flag on Sky Moore because I feel like if somebody, I think the most likely scenario, if I'm being honest, is the boring one where nobody really takes the reins and that production is kind of spread out across everybody. But if somebody does take it, I think that the odds-on favorites would be MVS if Sky Moore does not turn out to be special. And same deal kind of in Green Bay. You know, I like looking at Alan Lazard as a Bears fan, I'd prefer if Aaron Rodgers throws it to nobody this year. But if he has to throw it to somebody, I guess Alan Lazard is a pretty good bet, especially with the early training camp issues with Christian Watson's health. All good picks. I think the James Robinson name is an interesting one. I am in on Travis Etienne this year. That being said, he's kind of being drafted as if he's going to hit ETN is, and James Robinson is being drafted, I think, at the price of his worst case scenario. So there's really no downside to taking a dart throw at James Robinson in case he's the guy and in case that offense is competent. But I mean, we've seen James Robinson be great when that offense isn't competent. So, like I said, not a lot of downside there. If
big
I have
injury,
a couple
though.
of
Big injury to come back from.
Yeah.
it was a big injury, but early reports are good, and he's young. So
Cam Akers, I can say, is one example that kind of shattered the whole torn Achilles and being able to come back productive.
But he looked so bad when he came back. I am out on Akers this year.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. So if I just throw out a couple names here before we move on, I like Alec Pierce, rookie wide receiver over at the Colts. I'm not super familiar with his work in college. It's just the opportunity there is so attractive. I think behind Michael Pittman, as a potential wide receiver too, in an offense that I think is going to move the ball well. I love Matt Ryan as a passer. He's always been good enough to support multiple relevant wide receivers. That offense is going to run through Jonathan Taylor, but he's not going to catch a ton of passes out of the backfield. Taylor isn't, and I'm not a Nyheim Hines guy. So Alec Pierce, I think that if his talents can translate to the pro level, he's going to have opportunity to do a lot over there, especially if Michael Pittman doesn't end up having that big breakout target hog year that everybody thinks he might have.
He is. Lock him in.
I think
Sanchi's in.
I think he probably will, but again, when you're looking like late end of your draft kind of sleeper picks, you're betting on potential scenarios. You're hedging against things that aren't guarantees. And I think maybe Michael Pittman dominating this year is not as much of a lock as Sanchi thinks it is. I think it's, again, more likely than not, but not guaranteed. And I'll pay a 16th
Pierce.
rounder.
I took Pierce in Dynasty. He has great talent. He's a great number 2 for Matty Ice. I see what you see in him. I think he could be an instant impact on that team. So, good pick.
And another quick name, Darrell Williams, who's being looked at as the backup running back on the Cardinals right now.
Yeah.
Hey man, he had an opportunity last year to step up and be relevant, and he was great in his limited capacity as a starter. So, look at the amount of games that James Conner has missed in the last few years. If you kind of, again, take a bet that maybe he goes down this year, which I don't like projecting injury, but if we have to, Darrell Williams all of a sudden is going to be the guy on a probably really great offense in Arizona. So great pass catcher, better runner than I think he gets credit for. And I think that there's also a world, like a non-zero chance that he splits time 50-50 with James Conner or outright takes the job at some point. So again, not projecting it, but that's where I'll place my chips on a late round bet.
Okay.
So moving along,
it's in the realm of possibilities.
It is in the realm of possibilities. Keeping in the line of draft strategy here, Lynn in Connecticut is doing her first salary cap draft next month. Do we have any tips? Sanch, are you familiar with these? Have you done much of them? I know our leagues don't, but
I don't do too many, but my buddy George does a lot. I had a nice discussion with him, so I'll hit you with some tips. We'll keep it quick. If you're going to nominate a guy you don't want. Mm-hmm. Don't show your hand. Don't be afraid to spend early, but not too far over the projected value. And you always got to know where your tier break in value is, because a lot of people try to save the money and not realize that tier break happens, and they end up with all this money, but then they'll have 3 wide receiver 3s, and where the hell is that going to take you? So those are just a few things to keep in mind.
Speaking of tier breaks, that's a big note, because what you also see happen over the course of these drafts is everybody tries to spend up to get the last player or 2 in each tier. So when you're, all the guys in the tier 1 running back range have gone, and now you have like that last guy on the list that everybody has circled, everyone's going to overspend on that guy. So you typically want somebody in the middle of the tier, which is a little different from snake drafts. So it's worth pointing out, because snake draft, you're kind of trying to grab that last guy in the tier when you have to. Salary cap drafts, they end up being pricier than they should be because everybody has the same idea. AD Markeith, you guys have any tips on salary cap drafts?
Yeah, so actually we played our first one this past season. I think I finished out 4th, but it was super fun. That was like I said, my first year with that. Couple tips I definitely give. I'd say be patient, but be decisive. You don't want to jump into a player right away and spend a good majority of your cap. I'd say what my strategy I took last year was to spend at least 45 to 55% of your budget on 2 prime players. So last year I went with Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift. Those are my first two, and then I kind of built around that with value picks. So I ended up we have one keeper. So we're repeating the league again this year, but you get one keeper, and I got Jalen Waddle for $2, and I got
Nice.
Mike Williams for I think like $8. So those are steals, you know. So I'm debating. I'm in between those two because those two guys had a great season last season, and you know, to take that at that value, that's an ideal keeper. I don't play poker, but I do play spades. So at times you want to throw off. You don't want, you know what I mean? You don't want them to know when you're coming with that wham. So
Yes, sir.
just, you know, throw off at times. Know your league mates. If I'm playing with Sanchi and I know that he's a Giants fan, I'm gonna shoot him up on Saquon. You know what I mean?
It's all yours.
I'm gonna jump on, you know, somebody on the Giants train, and I'm like, all right, let's get this person to burn some money on this guy. You know what I mean? I'm gonna throw into that, knowing that I don't necessarily want them, but I want my league mate to spend up. Lastly, I would say for my drinkers, tell your guys to pop a couple brews, pour up their favorite glass of whiskey, because by the middle rounds they'll start to take those bathroom breaks. They'll start to kind of, okay, wait, I'm starting to lose my attention span right now. You can get some guys in the middle rounds at a decreased value just because your league mates have had halfway through that 12-pack, or they've had a little too much on the whiskey yet. So
that sucks for them. I'm better. I'm better when I get a feeling, man.
Better when I'm drunk.
There you go. So I mean,
that's
those
a veteran move right there, man.
Yeah,
like
man.
it.
So that's some good tips. And lastly, I'd say here, pay attention to the values. You know what I mean? Know your budget, but know where players are being taken. Kind of similar to ADP, but just in more of like a value-based setup, more value-based structure. Just pay attention to that and kind of know where players are being taken and how much you really want to spend on a particular player. So that'd be for me. What you got, Markeith? Because you did pretty good last year too. So I know you have a couple tips as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd probably agree with all the tips AD gave. I'd also say just mock draft, like before your actual draft, like do some mock drafts just so you get the feel of how it is with the salary draft. It is different than your normal draft. There is no position there. Also, kind of what you guys were saying, know the value of your player just because you don't want to be caught. I got caught. I ended up spending like $20-something on Myles Gaskin just because kept upping it up, and I didn't want him. I was just upping it up for someone else, but they ended up not biting on it, and I got stuck with them.
That's the risk.
Yeah, so just definitely be mindful of the value of your players. Don't you can try to mess around, but keep in mind someone may do it right back to you. I got to still with mine. I got Deebo Samuel for $5. So that's going to be my key player going into the next season.
That's great.
Yeah, that's honestly, I'd say like everything I've said is great tips. Just know the value, know where the tier breaks off are. Pay attention to that because you definitely can get caught with a lot of money, and the players you're going for is not worth the dollar. Yeah. It's not worth it there.
You don't really want to have too much money left over. So like I said, be patient but be decisive. If you're gonna spend 45 to 55% on like two key players and try and build around that.
I think my two key players were Dalvin Cook. I spent $84. I'm iffy on that one. Like going back into it, I'm just kind of like he's not valued there. I don't think at this point now. But last year he was up there in the high 70s, like low 80 range. And then Darren Waller, which unfortunately got injured through the season there, and it kind of messed me up. I spent about 40 on him. And those two right there is about 120. We started off with 220 was our
220 was your budget. So what your budget is.
220 was our budget, and we were mock drafting with 200 though, so it was a bit of a difference when you actually went. And the $20 extra does account for something when you look at the value of the player. So.
Well, look, that's an easy mistake to make for beginners, right? Over saving, and then you end up with $80 at the end of the draft, and you spend on like Cole Kmet in the last round. But it's worth keeping in mind. Spend up on the guys that you like. I always say don't think of salary cap drafts as an opportunity for discount shopping and being frugal. Think of it as an opportunity that you wouldn't have in a snake draft to kind of freely mold your team as closely to your ideals as possible, regardless of ADP, because you don't have those constrictions. So, like, for example, if you're in love with both Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase this year, but you're not really in on any of those top running back tier guys, and you don't like to invest early in tight ends or quarterbacks, you can build that team with both of those wide receivers and spend later on running back and tight end and quarterback, and you probably can't do that in a snake draft. So, it's an opportunity to really plant your flag on the guys that you believe in and build your team around that. Trust yourself to find value later on to compensate for if you have to overspend a little bit early on to get your guys. Go get your guys. And on the opposite end of the spectrum of that, don't price enforce the guys that you don't want. If there's somebody out there going for a lot cheaper than you think they should be, and you don't believe in them, but you're like, I still feel like I need to. I feel like I need to draft like Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he's going $15 less than I feel like he should be, but I think he's going to suck this year. He's probably going to suck, and you're going to end up with him on your team, and it's going to feel bad. It's never a good decision. So don't bid on guys that you don't like, unless, like you said earlier, you're trying to drive that price up for somebody else. But if you feel like you have to draft a player, and it's a tip with snake drafts too. If somebody falls like 2-3 rounds, and you're like, I don't like this guy, but I feel like I should grab him because he's still here and he shouldn't be. It's never a fun way to play. So, biggest tip for salary cap drafts: take a nap first because they are long. They are so long. So if you've never done it, it is shocking the first time.
They're fun.
I love it.
Speaking of keeping a bead on people's draft values, Mikey in Florida says T. Higgins' price feels way too high. What am I missing? Sanchi, what are the players seeing in the community that Mikey is not?
Bro, I think the price is just right, man. A lot of people think that the Bengals are going to have like that Super Bowl curse regression. And as far as fantasy points, I just don't see it, man. That top coverage is going to be all over Chase. Joey Burr is only getting better along with the rest of the young offense. The O-line improved significantly. The kid's 23 years old, and he's a stud. You saw him toast Ramsey in the Super Bowl. Come on, man. He could easily be a wide receiver 1 on a lot of other squads. I see a lot of fantasy points coming from the Bengals. The 23.8 ADP seems about right to me. And I'm not mad for people trying to take that gamble on Higgins over guys like A.J. Brown and Keenan Allen. He could easily be a double-digit TD guy to me. And if he's in the 4th, I think that's an absolute steal for him because I've seen him fall there.
Sanchi is in fantasy culture. What say you? Where are you guys
Man, I am a T. Higgins truther.
Yes, sir.
But I do think his price is a little rich this season. I do think it is. I love T. Higgins. Ask him. I've vouched for T. Higgins on all my teams. If I can grab him, I get him. But for where he is this season, I think it's a little bit too rich. I don't know if I'm going to take him over guys like Keenan Allen, even Terry McLaurin, even in that Washington offense. I don't know if I'll take him over that. I feel like that was Jamar Chase's rookie season. I think he builds upon the connection he has with Joe Burrow. People kind of wrote, Joe Mixon off in a sense for being injury prone or having injury troubles. He had a good season last season. And I think they only strengthened their O-line better to help protect Joe Burrow, but also put a little bit more value in the running game. I think they have the same core. Tyler Boyd is still there, even though he's kind of taken a step back in his production due to kind of the emergence of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But I think T. Higgins takes more of a dramatic hit with the emergence of Jamar Chase and now actually knowing what Jamar Chase can bring to the table. I think, the preseason reports or whatever with Jamar Chase having trouble catching the ball and you didn't know what you'd get, that caused his ADP to fall last season, if people remember that. And
he was a league winner.
He was a league winner on a lot of teams. So T. Higgins is still there. I love his makeup, 6'4", great hands, can be a red zone threat, can stretch the field. I love what he brings. I really do. But if the question is specifically, do I think his price is a little bit too high? I do think it's a little too rich this season. But he is a great player, and I think there is value to be had, just not where he's going for me.
If he slips to the 4th, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
His ADP right now is wide receiver 12 going in the mid-3rd, but I have seen him slip to the 4th in a lot of mocks that I've been in. And I think this question is being asked because it's hard to invest a top 12 wide receiver pick in a secondary target on an offense. I think that some people just can't get around that in their heads. Markeith, what do you think? Is he where he should be going?
Yeah, one of the loan agreements I have with Dre.
We agree?
I agree. I think this is a little too high. Just going out, just since you're looking at a wide receiver 2 essentially on a team, and you're looking for him. That's tough. It's you have a lot of opportunities here in Cincinnati. Like I just feel like there's a lot to spread around. He did crack 1,000 yards last year. It wasn't like a dominant 1,000 yards. He did get 1,000 yard receiving, but it's something. It's nothing where I've seen like I feel like he should be. I don't know the value where it's at with A.J. Brown, McLaurin, Mike Evans. I've been kind of seeing around there as well. It's kind of hard for me to put him there. I'm not saying he's too far off. He's a great player. He's coming into his 3rd year now. First year, he almost had 1,000 yards as well. So 2nd year for him to get it, along with having Chase there. We have Burrow finally healthy that year as well. So I just feel like the offense is going to continue to flourish, but the ball is going to continue to be spread around with just the talent they have there. It's a lot to go around, and it's hard for me to put the trust there. And just Higgins alone at that position. But obviously, as you guys were saying, if he's going forward, if you can get him in the fourth, if he happens to go there, I'm definitely will grab T. Higgins there.
Yeah.
But that's just where I say I don't think it's too. I'm not going to say it's too far up. I wouldn't put the value where it's at.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's kind of in a cluster of receivers right now with a lot of question marks, but also a lot of upside. Like you said, guys like AJ Brown's. Who else is going around there? Probably Michael Pittman's again. Maybe
actual number ones on their team.
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen's. With
these are all
the
number
emergence
ones.
of Mike Williams. And look, he's a great player on a great offense with a great quarterback. The only problem, right, is that there's an all-world wide receiver competing with him for targets in Jamar Chase. Like I said, he's going wide receiver 12, and people are looking at last year and seeing that he finished wide receiver 18 overall in half PPR. But he missed a few games. He was actually on pace as the wide receiver 12 in points per game that he played, among wide receivers who played at least 10 games. So he's being drafted right around the value that he gave you last season, with kind of a less than perfectly healthy Joe Burrow. So I think there's some upside. It's not crazy for teams to finish with two top 12 wide receivers on good high volume offenses, which you do have in Cincinnati. His season last year I was going back through the numbers, and it's a little more boom bust than I remembered. Probably because I didn't roster him in many leagues, so I didn't have to feel this. I kind of just have to look at it now in hindsight. But he only cracked 14 points 3 times on the season. But those games were 20, 24, and 37 points. So they were, when he boomed, and they all came in the second half of the year, after a really mediocre first half where he was like wide receiver 36 in points per game. So it's like, did they figure something out in the second half of the year? Was it just Joe Burrow getting healthier?
They did. It was chemistry. Yeah. He's young. He's only getting better. I am not mad at anyone for taking T. Higgins this year.
Yeah, I think so too. There's kind of a trendy, hot takey narrative going around the fantasy community right now. That's kind of looking at Higgins and Jamar Chase as maybe being closer and a lot closer in production this year than maybe their ADP suggests. Even with kind of a pricey mid-third, early fourth round price tag on T. Higgins, there are people out there who will try to sell you on T. Higgins matching or outscoring Jamar Chase this year. I don't see it, but
I don't see
that either.
There are people out there who are willing to take T. Higgins in the mid-third, thinking that they're getting some upside. So I love the player. Again, he's in that circle of guys where you got to just plant your flag on somebody and be like, this is the guy that I think is going to accelerate out of this tier of wide receivers. Don't know that Higgins has as much upside there as some of the other guys like the AJ Browns there, who are the one on their team. But not a bad bet, and I don't think that anybody who pays up for him in the third is getting ripped off. So that's my take. We have just time for at least one, maybe two more questions if we go quick. So I want to start with this one from Kyle in New Jersey. Represent New Jersey. What running backs going after round 4 have the best chance of finishing as a running back 1? Not the running back 1, a running back 1. Sanchi, what are some names you're looking at after round 4 who you think have that RB1 upside?
Well, they're going late for a reason, so it's obviously a gamble. But a few guys I could, off the top of my head, are Miles Sanders, Eli Mitchell, and Josh Jacobs. Obviously not the sexy pick you're hoping for, but as you said, if you go hero RB, zero RB, these are definitely guys you can try to lock in. As a Giants fan, it hurts me to say, but I think that Philly offense is going to be amazing. I can bet almost every cent I have to my name that Sanders will find the end zone this year. Eli Mitchell, I'm not sold on Sermon, all that camp hype, in one ear, out the other. I know they took Davis Price, who could be a red zone guy, but Eli Mitchell was the guy for him last year. And I think if he stays healthy, he's going to stay that guy. And going to Jacobs, man, like I'm in on Oakland. Vegas. I'm in on Vegas this year.
Who plays in Oakland, bro?
He went
Athletics. The Athletics. But anyway, yeah, I'm in on Jacobs. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. I think they're going to run him to the ground. I think Carr's going to make that next step with Tay Adams. Hunter Renfrow is a PPR machine and a great 2. If Waller stays healthy, there's so many scoring opportunities for that Raiders team, and I see him in the red zone a lot this year. And you want to be in the red zone with your running backs. And as I said, it's a contract year. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. I think they're going to they're gonna run that. They're gonna run that dude to the ground.
For sure. I had Miles Sanders on my list. I will admit that I missed Josh Jacobs, and I think that he is one of the most correct answers that we're gonna hear today. That's a great pick, man. Because when you're looking at these guys, like it's not quite the hero RB approach where you're trying to kind of backfill that RB2. I think this is more useful for zero RB, where you come out swinging on wide receiver in the first round, then maybe get like a Mark Andrews second round, really stack up on the big pass catchers, and you're looking for somebody who could be like your anchor. I think Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders both have that kind of upside. AD Markeith, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll go quick. I agree with Josh Jacobs. He was kind of on the cusp for me a little bit, because he's like right around that fourth round range. So I didn't know if I wanted to include him in there right now, but I agree with that. I had him rostered a few seasons ago, and with League Pass, I was able to watch a lot of games, and I just felt like they would get to the red zone and just couldn't punch it in. Josh Jacobs, for a number of reasons, just he couldn't get into the end zone so many times, and I think his value that year, I think that may have been 2020, his value that year took a hit because of it. But if you watch the games, you would see that they would get to the red zone 4 downs and just not able to punch it in with him. And I think that efficiency is gonna there's going to be some trajectory going up on that efficiency now that they have Devontae, a healthier Darren Waller. It's going to open up the field a bit more for Josh Jacobs to kind of have those valuable trips to the red zone and convert. So I like that. I also think AJ Dillon. I think AJ Dillon has the possibility to have a bold take here. Maybe not that bold, but I think they may be the best 1-2 backfield tandem coming into this season between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. I think the loss of Devontae Adams is drastic. I think Aaron Jones will be used more in the passing game because we've seen what he can do in the passing game. And he has the trust of Aaron Rodgers. I think a lot of players succeed just off of the trust of Aaron Rodgers. You get that trust, you get that opportunity. AJ Dillon, AJ Dillon, I think, came in last season, and I was an Aaron Jones. I rostered him last year, and I saw the impact of AJ Dillon once he emerged, how he was able to fit right into the role and kind of flourish. He had those red zone opportunities. He had those opportunities of driving the ball, down the field, being able to run the ball efficiently. I think they lean a bit more on their run game this year because you don't know really what you're going to get out of that receiving corps so much. So I think there's a lot of value there where he could go into that RB1 range. Of course, not the overall RB1, but in that range.
For those of you who don't have to watch Green Bay games a few times a year, you might not understand that AJ Dillon is not a backup. He's not a handcuff who comes in, to give Aaron Jones a breather. He gets drives to himself.
He's a baller. He's a baller. It is a great 1-2 punch. As you said, they're gonna lean on that running game. I like both Jones and Dillon this year. Hell, I'll take them both if the price is right. If one goes down, you got a top 12 guy, in my opinion.
Markeith, anybody to add real quick?
Yeah, a quick one. Amongst a rookie, Kenneth Walker is one person I'm actually kind of looking at. In regards to if Rashad Penny if he follows the normal process of unfortunately not being able to stay healthy, I do like Kenneth Walker. Just opportunities are there for him. I also probably have to go Travis Etienne, just in the sense of another opportunity base for him. He's with his old college teammate. That chemistry is there. I can see dump downs and just kind of a nice PPR player for him there. Those probably, if I go another one, probably maybe Breece Hall or Michael Carter. It's kind of iffy on that the Jets offense though. It's last year was very young offense, was kind of all over the place. They passed a lot though. They passed for 63% of the offense compared to running. But with Breece Hall coming in, you get a big back, a nice back there. You have Michael Carter, who had a nice season. Wasn't great, but just nice to see what he was able to do coming in as a rookie year. Those are just some quick ones I'll probably say after the 4th round. The potential is there. The opportunities are there for them to kind of get there.
I have Breece Hall circled on my list too.
That's in the right direction.
I think he's going to be a 3-down back on the Jets right out of the gate. I didn't think Michael Carter showed anything special enough to take that role from him. He might do some pass catching, Michael Carter, but a lot of his pass catching success last year came with backup quarterbacks. So I don't think there's much to point to there. Look, it's a bad team, but Breece Hall is a talented guy. He's going to have a big workload on a team, honestly, that has potential to take a big step forward after a really good draft. So
I don't think it's a bad team anymore, man. I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs this year, but I think they're doing that. Offense is looking right. If the MILF Hunter can make that next step. I mean, Elijah Moore. I got Elijah Moore, stud. Garrett Wilson should be a stud. Brees Hall, the most athletic back to come out of college since Saquon. Everyone's hot. I can see him slip into late second by draft season. I really can.
You hear it here, folks. Like at Sanchi Valley on Twitter. Jets to the moon.
They're in the right direction
under the leadership of the MILF Hunter.
That's right.
Let him know what you think of that take. I also have, along the lines of the Ken Walker answer, I have Rashad Penny on my list, assuming that he doesn't get hurt. If he goes down, obviously Ken Walker's in great shape, but it's not going to be a great offense with Russell Wilson out of town. But when Rashad Penny was healthy last year and the starter for the last 6 games of the season, he was the running back one and half PPR during that stretch. So it's a small sample size, but Pete Carroll doesn't lean a lot on rookies. So Penny should get a chance to keep being great as long as he's on the field. So that'll be my last answer there. I think that there's definitely a decent crop of guys with some upside in that range this year, and I feel like that's not always the case. So good to keep them on your radar for this year. We will take one last quick lightning round question.
Let's see it. What's going on? Let's see it.
Give me names and maybe a quick hit of analysis. Aaron in New York wants to know, and this is a great question because I keep seeing these guys going back to back in mock-ups. First of all, Sanchi, Mike Williams or Hollywood Brown? Go.
All right. For me, it's Mike Williams, but I'm feeling both this year.
Same.
Those first 6 weeks where Hopkins is out, Brown's going to get a lot of attention. And at the other end, Mike Williams is going to be lined up next to Keenan Allen on a more powerful offense, in my opinion, with the better quarterback. They're both good offenses, but, if you're telling me to take, Herbert or Murray, I'm taking Herbert every time. I think they both could be game changers with the big game potential. They could both win you weeks, but as a Hollywood Brown owner last year and watching him get all these high volume targets, square in his hands and drop them, I'm leading Mike Williams. But as I said, I won't be mad at you.
I like the pick. I like the analysis. I'll take Hollywood Brown at his value because he's going a little bit later, but I think that they're not so far apart that you're going to get to take advantage of that value much. I think that more often than not, you're going to be looking at them both at the turn or something, and you have to pick one or the other in a vacuum. So for me, it's Mike Williams if I can only get one or the other. AD, Markeith, where are you guys on the wide receivers here?
I got to go with Mike Williams. I honestly think I don't think it's really that close in my opinion. I think Mike Williams is a better overall receiver. Yeah, Hollywood Brown may be faster, but Mike Williams is fast and has size, and he's kind of proven when he's not injured that he can be his first, I think, 7 games of the season last season was incredible. 2 touchdown games, 100, over 100, game changer, absolute game changer. He's in the same core offense. You have Hollywood Brown going to another offense. You really don't know how he'll fit in. I think he's even dealing with an injury right now in the offseason. I thought I saw a report about that. I could be wrong there, but I think there's hamstring. Okay, so I got to go with Mike Williams there. I think that offense is just such firepower. I don't really know what I'm going to get out of the Cardinals. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Go ahead. Yes, Archie.
One thing I'll say is he's getting his old college quarterback back. So, the chemistry, maybe they still have something. Maybe Hollywood just needed a better passing quarterback. That's no shade to Lamar because I think Lamar's amazing, even though he burnt me last year. But I think, going back to college, those guys were electric together. So I can't.
Keith, are you unanimous on Mike Williams? Despite the college connection.
Well, yeah, because that'd be the one positive I point out is they're back together. But it's hard for me to trust Hollywood Brown. He's had opportunities in Baltimore. Granted, they are a running team, but they did give him the opportunities. He got a lot of targets that he just missed on himself. That he kind of dropped. He had plenty of touchdowns that he could have caught, and it's hard for me to root with him. When Mike Williams has solidified himself multiple years, his only issues has been the back injury, really, and that's really about it for him.
Well, Markeith, we'll stay with you for the running back question. Breece Hall or Travis Etienne before we wrap up here?
I'm going to go the chemistry based on this one. I'm going to go Travis Etienne here with just being back with still being with his college teammate and actually being able to play on the field now. And of course, in Clemson, they had a great run there for multiple years. Doug Peterson's a great coach, and he's going to know how to utilize his team. He showed it in Philly, being able to utilize his running backs at the time when he was there, as well as being a quarterback guru as well. So I just kind of see a great year for Etienne. Well, I see him better with than Bryce Hall in a sense with with his teammate there, and just the opportunities with James coming back from his injury. I doubt he's going to really be starting, within the first couple of weeks, and I feel like he's going to kind of get in there, be able to keep Lawrence safe, be a good safety value for him if he's in trouble with the O-line or anything in that regard, little dump downs. He was a solid runner at Clemson. Wasn't breakaway speed, but solid hard runner. So I'll probably go to TM. But it's a tough one, honestly, for that one. It's tough because Breece Hall is a freak athlete, great talent. It's super athletic, and it's kind of hard to beat that. But chemistry based on how the team is, I'll probably go at TN over Breece.
AD, I know you're a little higher on James Robinson. Are you in agreement?
I'm a little bit higher on James Robinson. To be honest with you, I'm a silent Jets fan. I'm a Jets fan and I'm a Knicks fan. But my heart hurts for both. I've been through a lot of heartache for both. So I sit back and I let people, I assess what's going on. I feel like a lot of it rests on Zach Wilson's play this year. We have the core, we have the structure. Mm-hmm. Zach Wilson, you got to come through for us, bro. You got to show us something. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I still probably will lean Etienne. I know Breece Hall's catalog in college, but I kind of just like where Etienne is going to fit into the Jags offense a bit more than, to be honest, putting my own faith in that backfield of my team, of the Jets. So I'm going to lean Etienne just slightly on that one.
If I were a Jets fan, I'd be silent too, first of all. But I appreciate the analysis. Sanchi, real quick, you said it was a coin flip. Where does that coin land for you?
First of all,
right now,
Zach Wilson's got that dog in him.
I gotta see if it's a pit or a chihuahua. We gotta figure it out.
That's fair. Yeah, it's a coin flip for me. They're both high prospects out of college. I personally think Breece is a bit more talented and is going to be a game changer for real life and fantasy if the Jets don't jet. But as I said, my hot take that I think they're on the rise. The same can be said about the Jags, but as ETN does have that college chemistry out of Clemson with Lawrence. That's always a plus. For some reason, I see Underdog has ETN as higher up on the ADPs, but every mock I've done, I've seen Breece Hall go earlier than him 90% of the time. So ETN might be the better value if it plays out like I've seen in mocks, and the ADPs don't really add up to me. ETN's a nice late third, early fourth round pick, great pass catcher with the chemistry from Lawrence, but and Breece is getting really hyped up right now, and as I said, could be a late second, early third by late August in draft season, especially when we start seeing these videos and all these hype beasts on Reddit. I'm really high on both of them, but I'm gonna lean Breece Hall.
Yeah, I like them both better than I typically do in running backs in that kind of dead zone area, the rounds 3 to 5. I think that they both have a lot of upside. They're kind of a wash in terms of talent, opportunity, very similar situations. I think that Michael Carter is a little bit less of a threat to Breece Hall's workload than James Robinson is to ETN. And I have a little more confidence in the Jets taking a step forward this year than I do in Jacksonville, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if I have that backwards. So I think they're both great picks. If I have to lean one way or the other, it's going to depend a little bit on my roster construction, because I think ETN's a little safer, to be honest, but I think that Breece Hall has that top 12 upside, maybe top 10 upside that I'm not sure ETN has. So
I think they both do.
Yeah,
I'm going to say I think they both do.
So that's where I'm at, and we are at just a little over an hour, so we're going to put a pin in this one and call it a day. AD Markeith, guys, this was a blast. Thanks for coming on our show today.
Man, thank you for having us, man. I had a great time. This is actually our first ever, so I was able to. I feel like I was able to snip the ribbon on this. So I appreciate you guys letting us come on. It was a great time. We had some great conversation. Sanchi, I'll see you later down the line in our league. Man. Is Greg in that one? Is Greg in our that league, sleeper league with us?
He's not.
He's not. Well, Greg, I'll check back in with you to see how you're doing in your league, and Sanchi, I'll see you in a few weeks.
We'll have you guys back.
You guys have
on,
fun.
For sure, man. For sure.
We'll definitely have you guys back on.
Why don't you just real quick tell the listeners where they can find your show and how to look you up and follow you for more content.
Yeah, for sure. So Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, pretty much Anchor, Fantasy Culture Podcast, Twitter, at FFBallCulture. Go ahead and shoot us a follow. We always follow back. We appreciate any kind of engagement. Just tap in with us. We appreciate it, man. Thanks for having us so much. We really do.
Thanks for coming on.
Anytime.
Fantasy Culture Podcast, guys. Check them out. Give them a like, subscribe. And thank you guys again for coming on. So
Absolutely.
We are Fantasy Fanline. We'll be live with another expert guest every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for the rest of the season. You can subscribe and stream our show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or find us the next day on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social platforms at Fantasy Fanline and visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, for a full schedule of upcoming guests and to submit a question to our mailbag if you can't join us live for the next show. For Staunchly Value, I am Greg Scalera. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you next time on Fantasy Fanline. Goodbye.
Peace.